going to take a brief survey right at the outset here. It's not very scientific or anything else, but it's just maybe at least get you thinking in the vein of what we need to be thinking about. And so let me ask you this. Does anybody here have a favorite restaurant? Anybody here have a favorite restaurant? Okay. Anybody just mind saying what's your restaurant? Darren, you can't answer. You can't. I mean, this would be prejudice or whatever, but no, you can. But if you say something different, let's see, where is everybody? No. Who has a favorite restaurant? You just like to say it out loud. Moe's? Longhorns. I'm with the Jim. No, I'm just, anyway. Bonefish. Pardon me? Pizza Central. You're just kissing up, man. No, it's a great restaurant. It is. Couple others? Pardon me? Oh, yeah, Frog Holler. Fats. Yeah. Well, I didn't hear anybody saying McDonald's, but the kids all left, you know. And I just want to ask you this. Your kids like to go to McDonald's either because there's a playground or because they give a gift if you buy the thing or because the food's so good. I mean, you know the answer. McDonald's is genius about that, and I guess they figured out y'all get those parents there no matter what. And I know there's some adults that, you know, like McDonald's still. I think there comes a, anyway, I'm not here against McDonald's. I mean, it's not what this is about. The point is, oftentimes we have a favorite. Now, I'm going to ask you another question, and that is, how many of you, when you go to a favorite restaurant, it doesn't have to be a favorite restaurant that you go to more than others, do you get the same thing every time? How many of you do that? Okay. Man, boring people here. Just do the same old thing. I do that too. In fact, you know, Angie, she can labor over a menu someplace, you know, we've been to 20 times or something, you know. And I'm thinking by the second time, I already know what I want. It's going to be the same thing, because if it was good, there's no reason to, you know, break the mold here. So menu time's easy for me if it's a place I'm familiar with, and because I pretty much know what I'm going to get. And let me ask you this: do your kids, those of you who have small kids that are in elementary age, particularly, or you know, preschool and elementary age, do they have a favorite book? Anybody have kids that have a favorite book, favorite story? Okay, I guess nobody has kids that have favorite stories. I thought, you know, what I've found to be true, especially the younger the kids are, they have a story they like, and guess what they want you to read? You read it to them last night. Guess what they want you to read it to them tonight? The same book. And then guess what they want you to read tomorrow night? The same book. You know, and a good parent will put up with that for a few days, and at some point you go, I will not read this book to you tonight. You can either pick a different book if you want story time, or we're cutting story time out. You know what I mean? It's like, it just, you know, you kind of had it up, you can't take it anymore. If I have to read that book, The Spotted Dog or whatever it is, you know, one more time, you know, I'm going to go insane. So we, you know, there's something about us that, typically speaking, we do like routine. We do like something that is familiar, or maybe we could say is the same. And so today I want to talk to you about the importance of same, even though I know there's arguments against same. And so we'll refer to a few of those things as we go. I want you to look at the sheet that you have beside you, John 15, beginning at verse 1. It says this, and this is Jesus speaking, I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes so that it will be even more fruitful. You are already clean because of the word I have spoken to you. Remain in me. Remain in me. I want you to focus on those words. And as I also remain in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. Now, I want to go down. There's two more. One's a translation, one's a paraphrase of this verse 4. Verse 4 in New King James Version says this: abide in me, instead of remain in me, abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. And then from Eugene Peterson, a paraphrase: live in me, make your home in me, just as I do in you, in the same way that a branch can't bear grapes by itself, but only by being joined to the vine. You can't bear fruit unless you are joined with me, unless you make your home in me as I make my home in you. Now, this verse, this concept of remaining in is, it brings to mind to me something that is very, very critical with regard to this issue of the same. I think the greatest key to change is often found in more of the same. We tend to like the next big thing. What's the next iPhone going to be? It's the next, and the last one I guess was a bigger thing, wasn't it? The i6, the bigger one, big version. I think even the smaller version was bigger. And so, what is the next big thing? I mean, people who are in marketing, they're making a killing off of this next big thing. And we know technology changes fast, and so there are upgrades and all this stuff. And I'm not, if you have an iPhone 6, that's great, and that's fine. It means I can get a hold of you quicker, easier, all that kind of stuff, whatever it might be. But we live in a culture where we're looking for the next thing, the next big thing, the next, what's next? What's next? And there's nothing wrong in and of itself in that, but if we're not careful, we forget to appreciate the things that need to remain the same. There are bad same things. In other words, there's bad sameness, such as stagnant. Whenever I say stay the same, I would never say, have stagnant sameness. Where you become comfortable, but your living is comfortable, but it's not profitable. There's nothing that's really beneficial to you. You're just comfortable. Hunter and I rode past a pond yesterday, and it was solid green except for this one little spot. And he wanted to know why does the water look like that? And I explained to him about stagnant and kind of what it is. And so whenever a person stays the same for comfort, they become stagnant, and stagnant's not good. There's also stupid sameness. It's like you know something you're doing isn't good for you and it's hurting you, but you keep on doing it. It'd be like somebody touching a stove and go, oh, it's hot. Touch it. Oh, that's hot. Touch it. Oh, it's hot. Oh, it's hot. If you're standing there, you'd go, stupid. Why are you being so stupid? Why do you keep touching the stove? Most of us here wouldn't do that. Even your kids wouldn't do that. They're going to recoil after the first time. But there are sometimes we live life in such a way where we just keep doing the same thing over and over again, even though it really is stupid to do it. And so don't be stupid same. Don't have sameness that's stupid. Sometimes we get caught up with because we've always done it this way. We don't stop to think about why we do it this way. We've just always done it this way. Mother did it this way. It's like the person who cut their ham in half every time they baked it. And someone asked them one time, "Why do you cut your ham in half?" And said, "Well, my mom always did it that way." And said, "Well, why did she do it that way?" She said, "I don't know." So she called her mom and asked her, "Why did she cut her ham in half?" And she said, "I don't know. My mom did it that way." And so she called her mom and asked her, "Why did you cut your ham in half?" She said, "I had such a little pan, I couldn't fit the whole thing in." That's what we call stupid same. It's, there's things we just do because we always did them. I'm not recommending that, all right? What about stubborn sameness? Well, that's just how I am. That's just the way I roll, And it's almost like someone takes pride in stupid sameness, and because they're just so stubborn, about it. They're going to do it that way just because that's the way they've done it. They're going to do it. They might do it, whatever. How they feel like doing it. Doesn't matter if it makes any sense. And then there's scared sameness, fear of change, the fear of something. These are not good kinds of sameness, okay? And so and when we talk about staying the same today, I'm not talking about this kind of sameness, all right? And so, but there is what I think is a sacred sameness. And I think sometimes same gets a bad rap, especially in our culture. And I would say, if I think about my own life and I look at it and I look back, I would say most of the things that are of great value to me in my life are based on the principle of sameness. For me personally, as a pastor, I had a desire early on. I had an experience of church planting while I was a Bible college student, and that kind of cast a vision for me and for my ministry. Logistically, that did not happen for me right away. And so I pastored what you might call more traditional churches, that kind of thing. But it was something that was in me to do. And whenever I felt like God gave me that opportunity to do that, it wasn't an experiment for me. It wasn't something I was just playing with. It wasn't something, well, I'll do this if I can't do something else. It was a genuine, true calling. And so, right now we're almost 2 decades into this thing called Westtown. Pastor Greg and Kendall and some of the others that had joined us very early on that are still a part of that journey. And one of the things that I look at and I go, we don't do the same thing just to do the same thing, but we still are out to accomplish the same thing that God called us to do from that very beginning. And I never started Westtown for us to be a one-year wonder or for us to be a 3-year experiment or something like that. I started it for me to give my life to something that was greater than I was, and to ask some other people to come alongside and give their life to something that was greater than they were. But all together, we could advance God's kingdom. And so I'm not the kind of pastor who's flipping through help wanted ads every other week. I'm not the kind of pastor who's looking for the latest, greatest ministry job out there. I'm the kind of pastor who's saying, God, if you allow me to pastor the same church for a long period of time, to invest my life so that I actually, was at Christie's, had a graduation event, and I remember her being born. I remember being in the hospital when she was born. She was graduating high school. Those are some of the values of sameness, that you get to experience life with people. You get to experience a lot of life with people. You see a lot of changes go on, but there's something about the sameness that puts you in the place where you get to experience that with people, and it's something that's beautiful. And so, it's my intention to have the same wife. I'm not looking around for someone else to take her place. It's, my kids aren't up for sale. Well, not today, but anyway, I'm not, there's the things that are of value to me are the things that will be the same. Yes, change happens within that sameness, but what I've noticed is, and when I started my relationship with Christ, I was born and raised in church. I would say I probably got saved in one sense about 300 times, in my childhood coming up, just to make sure, because, as a kid. But at 16 years old, in the summer of my 16th year, I remember making a full-out commitment to Christ, where I said, because one of the things I was struggling with is from a younger age, I felt called to ministry. And whenever you're a teenager, being a pastor, well, it's generally not the first thing that comes to a kid's mind, It's not the first thing that comes to a teenager's mind going, yeah, that's exactly what I want to do with my life. And so I was struggling with that, and it was like a surrender point to me. Am I going to really let God have my whole life, or am I not? Am I going to really trust him, or am I not? And I can remember that night, in the middle of the night, whenever I went and got my mother because I could not sleep, and that's pretty crazy for a 16-year-old too, and awakened her at like 2 o'clock in the morning and told her what was going on and what was in my mind, what was in my heart. And we knelt down beside the sofa and we prayed. And when I prayed that night, that early morning, when I prayed that prayer, I wasn't praying that prayer again for an experiment or for something else. I was committing the rest of my life to Christ and to his ways. And have I done that perfectly since then? No. There have been times he's had to drag me out of the ditch. There's been times he's had to kick me in the seat of the pants. There's been times he's had to do all kinds of things to help me see the right path and be on the right path. But what I do know is this, that it is my intent to follow the same Christ that I met that night, the 16th, when I was 16 years old. It's my intent to be following that same Jesus whenever I come to the finish line of this life, and whether it's sudden or whether it's prolonged, and I'm able to tell people goodbye or those kinds of things. It's my intent to find and to meet that Christ that I committed my life to at the end of this life so that he can lead me on to eternity. There's some things that are same that are critically important, and they should not be up for debate. They should not be up they should not be negotiable in our lives. And so those are the things that I'm calling us to and saying, let's make sure we're connected to that sameness in the right kind of way. Number one, and I say one just because I've got like 3 points. If you want to write them down, again, this is the first kind of main point that I'm making. If you resist the monotonous, you'll miss the miraculous. If you resist the monotonous, you'll miss the miraculous. Now think of all the things that Jesus could have used as an example. He was great. He was, sometimes people will criticize pastors today for telling stories. Well, what those people who criticize that miss is Jesus was the master storyteller. If you look at most of his messages, they were built around a story. And so here Jesus, he used illustrations, of practical illustrations. In this case, he used the vine and the branches and the fruit. And so whenever you think of Jesus as the vine, this is something he decided, this is how I'm going to describe this relationship and how things happen, how growth occurs, how a fruitful life comes about, is Jesus is the vine and we are the branches. And the most important part of this is that we remain, or we abide, or we make him our home as he's making us his home. The different ways of that being expressed that are on the sheet in front of you. If you stay, you remain in me. And then if you go back up to verse 1, it says, Jesus said, I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. Now, there are so many different images we have the Bible describes God as. This is one of those where Jesus himself described God as the gardener. And so as the gardener, this means that he plants us where he wants us to be. He's tending to it. As it said, he'll pluck off those branches that are not bearing fruit. He'll prune back the ones who are. How many of you like it when God prunes you? How many of you like it? You're very intelligent people. I would say if you like it, you might want to visit a counselor. But the other side of it is this. We should like the results of it, and we should like what it means. What it means is this, that God only pruned the branches that were fruitful. And so when you feel like God's pruning on you, remember there is a compliment involved of saying, I see you as a fruitful person. I see you as a person who has effect, who can make a difference, who has capabilities to be fruitful, to multiply in the effect that I've given you. And so as a result of that, God does things to us that maybe they're not always something we would pick. We would choose whether he's pruning. Here's what I think. I think instead of seeing God as a gardener who's working on us to make us something beautiful, I think sometimes we like for God to be a genie we can kind of rub. We have this concept. We can rub our Bible, and we'll get the God luck. I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going to open over here. There are some great stories when people have been in great duress and they've opened the Bible and it fell to a passage they needed. And I'm just going to tell you, I believe God can do that. Okay, he knows where we are. He can do that. But I just want to tell you, the Bible's not a good luck book. It's not a good luck book. God's not a genie. Understand what he said. He said, remain. Remain in me. Have you ever had someone say, I just need you to sit here for a while. I just need you to sit right here for a while. I need to finish what we're doing here, and I'll be back in just a minute. You sit right here. Do you know that's one of the hardest things to do? And especially your children, if you go, now, I'm going to go in here, and you think about this. Now, today, you know what kids have oftentimes whenever they have to sit there a while? They have their mom's cell phone, or they have a tablet, or they have something else. Now, when we grew up, back when we grew up, we didn't have no iPhone. We didn't have no tablet. You know, we didn't have that stuff. And so whenever my mom said to me, now, Rod, you need to sit right here for a little while. I'm going to be talking to this person over here, but I'll be done in just a little bit. That just seemed like, man, the minutes just went by so slowly. We don't like it. And Jesus said, you remain in me. You abide in me. You stay connected to the vine. That's how fruitfulness happens. And see, when you go out to a garden, the gardener, you know, I'm too impatient to be a good gardener. I either overwater them or I don't water it at all. You know, Vanjie, she's going to be gone for a few days. She's like, you know, Rod, I have these plants here, and if you don't water them, they might die. And I'm thinking, oh, that'd be terrible. You know, I'd just be awful. No, I care because she cares. But I don't care as much as she cares, so I forget sometimes. I just absolutely forget. And it's like we have this, and then the cold weather comes, and you're having to pull these things in to save their lives because it's going to be a real cold night tonight. And so we have this little thing. I like my dog, okay? But the dog's done a couple bad things around the house, all right? She has. And I think if it was up to Vanjie, somebody in here would own a dog, own a nice yellow lab. You'd have that yellow lab. We wouldn't have it anymore if it was up to, she likes it, but it's like too much of a pain sometimes. Too much of a pain. And so whenever she's telling me, if you wouldn't mind, that one there is too heavy. Can you pick that up and bring that in? I'm thinking, man, at least a dog acts like it likes you. What's this tree do for you? You know? I mean, you know, and so anyway, I'm a little sidetracked here. I know you're not surprised. But bottom line is, whenever you're gardening something, you know, there's a lot of tending. And you can watch, I know for me, since I'm not a gardener, I don't really have this experience. But I know that what I do notice is that sometimes Vanjie and the kids have planted some seeds, and then you'll see something, you look a few days later, and then it's this, and then it's this. You know, I get to see the growth. They can't see the growth so much because they're looking at it all the time. They're watching it. But growth occurs if you remain, if you stay connected, if you abide in. Growth occurs. There's no other way. In fact, Jesus said, there's no other way to do this other than to stay connected, than to remain, than to abide in me. There's no other way to do it. You have to remain in me. You know, sometimes we do this thing with God. We go, well, I read the Bible for a while. I didn't get much out of it. He didn't say read the Bible for a while. He said, in different places in the scripture, he says, meditate on it day and night. Meditate on the scripture day and night. Hide it in your heart so you won't sin against me. You know, there's a difference just between reading it a little bit and going, well, I didn't really notice any difference. You know why you didn't notice any difference? Because you didn't abide in it. You didn't remain. Well, I went to a church a few times, and I didn't seem to get much out of it. It doesn't work because you don't work it. You know, I just tell you, there's been probably a good dozen times, probably more than that I've had someone come and visit our church. And one of the first things, if one of the first things out of their mouth is this. Now, I've visited several churches in the area, and I'm going to tell you, it's a hard thing to find a good church around here. I'm going to come try you guys out. And if they start bad-mouthing other churches or talking negative about other churches, you know what? I don't always say it, but most of the time what I will say to them is this. I'm pretty familiar with churches in the area here, and honestly, there are a lot of wonderful churches in the area. And so if you thought most of those churches were awful and they weren't all that good, you're probably going to think we're the same thing, but you're welcome to come and check it out anyway. You can go ahead. But you know, if you don't commit yourself and stay connected to whatever it is God's doing in your life, you can't expect to get the results that God can give you. See, and here's another thing to remember. Whenever you are growing something in the garden, you know what it's growing from? dirt and water. Dirt and water. I mean, how ordinary does that get? Dirt and water. And see, we don't like ordinary. Yeah, but we're like that guy that came to Elisha, which is one of my favorite stories in the Old Testament. Greg and I still laugh about it sometimes when we're talking about it. And that is that he came and he's like, he needed healed of leprosy. And he expected the prophet Elisha to come out there, as he said in his own words, and wave his hands over him and declare him clean. Or if he was going to have him go dip in the water, he'd have him go dip in a clean river, not a dirty river. Isn't that how we approach God so often? Well, if God would ask me to do something great, I'd do it. But if he wants me to nice that neighbor I have, just forget that one right now. I'm not going to be nice to that neighbor. You know who that neighbor is? That neighbor is a neighbor from H. You can pick out whichever you want to say there. And so what we have a tendency to go, that just seems too ordinary. The dirt and the water, it seems too ordinary. I mean, helping someone out, doing something nice, just, being faithful. Sounds boring. Jesus said, remain in me as I remain in you. Sounds a little boring. It's not. See, if you resist the monotonous, you'll miss the miraculous. See, people with great results in areas of their life. We admire those results and we desire the reward they have, but we're not willing to invest in the process that helped them get to the place where they are enjoying the rewards that they have. Our tendency is to want to say, well, they were just lucky. Well, they just had rich parents. Someone took them under wing. They had an advantage I didn't have. See, here's the thing. You cannot have what other people have unless you embrace the routine that produces the rewards. You cannot have what other people have that you admire unless you embrace the routine that produces those rewards. Now, I'm not a sports guy by anything, but I had heard about a guy by the name of Odell Beckham who said that he made the greatest catch of all time. And if you see him doing it, I mean, he's like up in the air, he's got this one hand out here, and he catches the ball with that one hand and brings it back down, lands in the end zone. It is an amazing catch. I mean, I would never know whether it's the greatest catch of all time or not. But what I found out was that if you would have gone to watch him in practice, because see, what people would say is, oh, he got lucky. He got lucky. If you go watch his practice tapes, what you'll see is he practiced that exact same kind of catch over and over and over and over again. Sometimes people might practice that and never get the opportunity to do it. He happened to practice, he got the opportunity. At the farthest reach he could, he grabbed that ball in that one hand as it's being thrown at a good speed and grabs it and takes it down and lands in the end zone and makes an amazing, amazing catch. See, what it is, we look at that and we go, well, if I'd have been in that spot, most of us know we couldn't have, but, if I could have gotten that too, or he just got real lucky. No, he practiced and practiced so he was ready when the opportunity came. And if we don't abide in Christ, every opportunity in the world can come by and we won't be prepared for it. We wouldn't know how to handle it. We wouldn't know what to do with it because we haven't prepared. We haven't remained. We haven't been doing the same things that make us strong, that make us endure, that make us grow. You don't get blessed over a lifetime by a lucky moment. God's not a genie in a bottle. He gives you one great wish and you're there. Now you got it figured out the rest of your life. It's from the routine of doing the right thing repeatedly. It puts us in a place where we're fruitful and where we're able to have great effect for in our lives, in the lives of other people, for the kingdom of God. He's well known for a lot of things, but one of the things he's very well known for is his march around Jericho shortly after the Israelites went in to take the promised land. This was going to be their first great victory. And so what happens is they walk in, and let me just go ahead and it's on your sheet here in front of you, Joshua chapter 6, verses 14, 15. It says, "So on the second day they marched around the city once and returned to the camp. They did this for 6 days. On the seventh day, they got up at daybreak and marched around the city 7 times in the what? In the same manner. Except that on that day, they circled the city 7 times. They had made round 1, round 2, round up all the day 6, made rounds. 7th day, they get up early and they go around that thing 7 days, just the same way they'd been doing it before. Now, most of us in our culture today, we have these questions we like to ask. And so one of the questions that comes to my mind with that kind of thing, I'm going, all right, God, what was the deal with 6 days? And then on 7th day, they actually walked one more time. They did all 6 days put together. I mean, these guys are exhausted. You're going to give them a victory at the day. They walked around this thing 7 times on that 7th day. And here we are. Why did we do it that way? We want to know what's this process. Well, we can sit down, we can figure out a lot of things. We can say, well, one of the things he wanted to know was even they'd walked around it so many times, they knew it wasn't about them walking around. It wasn't just because they themselves walked around the walls that they fell down. They knew there was a miracle involved. They knew there was something great. But there was a lot about obedience in there, a lot about doing things God's way. There's all kinds of lessons we can learn. But what I want to say to you is this. God seems to specialize sometimes in sameness. He's saying, abide in me. Stay in me. Stay connected to me. Walk around the city. Keep walking around the city. We're going, why? Just keep walking around the city. Get up in the morning and pray. Get up sometime during the day, open up the Bible and read it. Why don't you witness to somebody? Why don't you share the good news with somebody in your life? What about getting up on a Sunday morning? You guys did that this morning. We're coming into those lazy days of summer, and I'm going to address that part of this in this series. It's a part of what I'm going to address. And you got up, and you said, it'll be a beautiful day at the lake. But I guess if I'm going, I'll be there about 12 o'clock or 1, whatever it is. And so you made a choice. And what you did is you made a choice to abide. You made a choice to stay. You say, does that mean people who aren't here aren't connected? No, I'm not saying that. I'm just simply saying you made that choice today. You're here. You're who I'm talking to. God has something about patterns. He has something about good habits. And we see how bad habits can be so destructive to us. I just need to tell you, good habits can be so helpful and so healthy to you. Day 1 through 6, they walk around. Day 7, they walk around 7 times in the same manner. There's something to be said about consistency. We want to talk a little bit about parenting in this series. There are some things we need to change about parenting, but there's some things that need to stay the same. And one of those is consistency. One of those is unconditional love. It's best we can do that humanly, in a variety of things. And so, parenting, we all know that kids, whether we like it or not, whether they like it or not, operate best within defined boundaries. And so some sameness there can make a lot of difference. In our Bible reading, I don't want anybody to ever get into a legalistic matter of just checking off a list. But the other side of it is, if you don't start with somewhat of a ritual, somewhat of a routine, you'll go your whole life and never get this thing of reading the Bible figured out. And so we're going to talk about how to get the Bible reading in the sameness, and in particular, because our schedule changes in the summer, because we're coming in a time period when things are different, I'm going to encourage you to look carefully at your life and say, what are the same things, what are the things that I'm doing that I need to keep doing through the summer? What are the things that I need to make sure are a part of my experience, part of my life in the summer as well? Even though a lot of things are changing, there's some things that need to remain the same. And so, you don't ditch your devotional life just because it's summertime. I'm taking a break from God. You don't ditch your faithfulness at church just because you don't take a break from your tithing and going, that's going to be our vacation money this summer. You can do that, but I won't recommend it. And so you can all kinds of things that we really know are good for us, and we do. And sometimes we hit times and periods of our life we're going, well, I'll just shelve that. The question we have to ask is, why would we do that? Why would we? And so sometimes people say practice makes perfect, but let me just tell you this. Practice doesn't always make perfect if you're practicing the wrong thing. And so what it does do, here's what practice does. Practice makes permanent. You know, that's why some of my age, I'm not going golfing anymore, all right? Or if I do, I'll have the golf course to myself because I'm not, and the reason, there's a variety of reasons why I'm not against golfing. I'm not against it at all. Some of you guys have a golf ministry here. That's wonderful. That's awesome. I applaud it, and that's great. And I'll meet you before, and I'll meet you after. I'm not going golfing. I don't care if Greg did make me some excellent clubs and everything else. I'm still not going golfing. I'll loan you my clubs, but I'm not going golfing. And the reason is because practice makes permanent. And I practice the wrong way, and I'm ruined. I can't play golf. I can hit it hard and I can hit it long, but I have no idea where that thing's going. But it does make it fun the next time Greg goes golfing, if I ever did, because then he can find the balls along the way. Doesn't he like to find those balls as he's going? But, so practice makes permanent. So the question is, what are you practicing today that's becoming a permanent fix in your life? What are you practicing today that you're going to end up repeating over and over again in your life? Because it's going to happen. It's either going to be the habits and the patterns and the sameness that's going to lead you down a path that you want to go, or it's going to be a pattern of the sameness that's going to continue to lead you into ways that either are a big circle that keep you wondering, why am I doing this again? 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 And so God says, set some things into your life. Abide in me. Be connected to me that sets you free from the things that will lead you down wrong path of life, and get connected to what God's would like to permanently fix into you as a pattern of growth and development. For some people, Jesus is just their weekend activity. He wants to be more than that. And so I would say this is point number 2 if you want to write it down. Repeat the right things until the routine is the reward. Repeat the right things until the routine is the reward. See, sometimes we focus so much on the reward and the results. Now I'm just going to use myself as an example, a really bad example, but I'm going to go ahead and use it anyway, because I can't always tell all the good things only. I have to tell some of the bad things too. And so what I know is right now, let's just say that I set a goal that I'm going to lose 100 pounds. Now, that was time for some of you guys to hit the aisle, start running, I didn't say I was doing it. I'm saying, let's just say if I set that as a goal, or when I set that as a goal, lose 100 pounds. Here's what I believe. I believe if I focus on that 100 pounds, and that's my goal completely, then I'll probably mess up pretty severely. But if I can get myself to focus on the routine, and the routine is my goal, the result will be the weight loss. And the routine will keep me there. Now, you're saying, well, Rod, that's good preaching. What are you going to do with that? You leave that between me and God. I don't get in your business. I just tell you what God said. No, I'm just, anyway. So it is good preaching, and I take it personally. I'm taking it here, okay? But to use that as an example, to understand, if you focus only on the reward, when you do receive the reward, there's a chance you'll lose the reward because your focus was reward instead of the routine. I don't know if that makes sense to you or not, but repeat the right things until the routine is reward. We're going to offer up some routines for the summer. Not going to hand them out to you today. We're going to offer up some routines for you this summer over the next few weeks, and I hope you hang in here with us. It's going to be good stuff. Some people say, I'd like to have the fruit those people have. I'd like to have the grapes they have. I'd like to have the kids they have. I'd like to have whatever it is I'd like to have. Well, let me give you point number 3. You go, wow, he's going fast now. That's good. You will never arrive if you can't abide. You will never arrive if you can't abide. Make the routine the reward. I was even thinking, I haven't done it yet, and we're not there yet as far as what we're going to do as far as a handout to you for the summer. We're still working on it. But don't be too surprised if it even suggests that you need to get you a little box of gold stars. Remember those gold stars? Man, I tell you what, you get kids at a certain age and stage, man, they'll kill themselves get one of those gold stars. Let's figure out a way to make those gold stars matter again, And so some of this stuff that we really need to be doing the same over the summer, we're going to bring. I think we're going to bring gold stars into the mix here somehow, And like today, just if you wanted to, for starters, you could go home and put a gold star in the calendar because you made it to church today. I did the same thing that will really help me on my journey to heaven. Now, I'm not saying we'll figure out a way to do it. It'll be fun. Practicing the presence of Christ. How to stay married. I heard a pastor say this. He had a grandfather who had been married. We were having their 50th wedding anniversary. His grandparents were, and he went up and he asked him, and his grandfather was a pastor as well. And he said, the thing I admire the most about you, Grandpa, is more than your ministry or anything else, is the relationship that you have with Grandma. How did you guys do this? How did you stay married for 50 years? And you know what his grandpa told him? He said, well, all you have to do is keep coming home. And so the pastor was waiting for his grandfather to, fill in and everything. And that was it. That was his answer. Keep coming home. Now, we know there's more to it than just keeping them home. But there's something about committing ourselves to do what it takes, to the sameness, to the saying, this is, I'm going to do this, I'm going to keep doing this, I'm going to keep. How are you going to remain in the vine? See, we want to arrive. We want to be there. We want to get there. We want to, his words are abide. He didn't say arrive. He said you'll bear fruit, but he didn't say arrive. He said abide. He didn't say, he said the result will be fruitfulness, but how do you get the fruitfulness? You abide. You abide. The New King James Version, it says, abide in me. And as we mentioned, Eugene Peterson puts it, make your home in me just as I do in you. It's that sense of living in Christ and him living in you. See, we chase new. We chase the hottest, latest, coolest thing. But what we really need is the same. Not the stupid same, not the other kinds of same, but the same that keeps our life strong and stable and fruitful. You ever hear someone say, it's the same old, same old? And I made a mistake. I was wet behind the ears. I was my first pastorate, and I was in my early 20s. And I went to breakfast with somebody in a little eating hole somewhere, a little country eating hole. It was awesome breakfast. And some guys were talking there, and they said, well, yeah, I went to SOS, And I go, SOS? And so I asked the guy, I said, well, what does that mean? He said, I really don't want to tell you, Pastor Rod. I said, well, why? I said, all these guys sitting up here said, just give me the SOS, And I don't think I feel comfortable telling you either. You can ask me personally, I'll tell you, okay? But I think how I would have viewed it was same old slop, but they weren't saying that. So anyway, same old, same old. If you got to a place in your life where it's just the same old, let me ask you this. Is it something that really needs to change? Or is it the same that needs to stay the same? Because see, sometimes what we have that's the same is good, and it's good for us. There's some same old I love. I like sometimes to go to the same old restaurant. Sometimes I like to order the same old food. If I could this afternoon, I'd go to my mom's same old Sunday dinner. Man, that was good. And if I could, I'd tell Vanjie to make some of that stromboli that competes with Pizza Central. That same old stromboli, man, good stuff. Same old, yeah. We better get some same olds in our lives that will hold us steady for the course of our lives and prepare us for heaven. The greatest compliment that we can ever give to anybody, probably, in particular even to God, is that he is faithful. And your memory verse for today says this: Jesus Christ is the same yesterday and today and forever. Do you know what that really means in essence? He is faithful. He is faithful. He is reliable. He is dependable. He is worthy of us connecting into him and exemplifying his faithfulness in our lives. The sameness. He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Not because he's boring, not because he's out of date, but because he is absolutely up to date. He is absolutely always in the present. He's always in the future. And he is always there for us no matter what we experience. You can go to him. You can count on him. He is there. He wants to develop that in us. And as we're going to talk about this for the next few weeks, I hope you'll go with us. Let's pray.